As BJ said above, fuzzing is this idea of taking random or pseudo-random data and putting it into inputs to see what happens. In this quick little video, we're going to show you a fuzzing attack against Dojo Basic. And Dojo Basic is a simple interface, vulnerable application that's part of Samurai WTF that you could download and use yourself to practice. And in it, you'll notice we're going to come in here, and I've already set it up so that you've got Firefox running. I also have Burp running. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to register for an account. Very simple, right? And we're going to say Kevin. I'm going to give it a password of password. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. And then I'm going to do, this is my signature. And that's the account I'm going to register. I'm going to submit that. I'm going to say don't save. Come over here to Burp just to make sure that it's capturing traffic, and it is. Perfect. And now what we're going to do is we're going to log in with that account we just made. Kevin, and then I'm going to do password again, and don't save. I should have said don't save for this site ever, but I didn't. Okay, so now at this point, we come over here, and you'll notice I'm using the community edition of Burp, so it's slightly restricted, slightly limited, but we'll notice that when we log in, we perform the post, and in the response, we get back a cookie that is set if we successfully log in. We'll see that right here, UID equals NQ%3D%3D. Then we see another request for the index page, and this time that cookie is sent up. Now, we know basic web stuff, right? We'll get to that in another session if you want. But what we want to do is we want to fuzz that UID cookie. We want to see what we could put there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this request and I'm going to send it to Intruder. Intruder is the fuzzing tool that's built into Burp. You'll notice it lights up a little bit over here. We come here and we have a number of tabs. The tab that's important right now is the Positions tab. And you'll notice you have these little squiggly marks right there, right? That's Burp's way of saying this is the parameters we want to fuzz. And in this case, we have two selected. That's done automatically. So we're going to come over here and we'll say clear squigglies. I don't know what they're really called. They're legal section markers. So they're probably called sectionist markers or something like that. But I call them squigglies. Now, what we want to fuzz right now is this UID, right? So we're going to highlight that and then say add. And you'll notice, you may be able to tell that it's slightly bluish, aquaish, or whatever. That means we're going to fuzz that. We're then going to pick the payloads. And for this session right now, and this is just a quick and simple, we're going to use, there's a variety of payloads we could use, but in this case, we're just going to use a simple list, okay? And we're going to come down here, and we don't have any lists available to us because this isn't the pro version. So we're going to come over here to the root directory, go down into opt, samurai, you would think I could tell, right? Sec lists, and fuzzing. And we're just going to pick, I don't know, random thing. We'll use big list of naughty strings. That just sounds like fun to do, right? And it loaded a bunch of various strings, some of them comments, some binaries, some just different things. And in this case, I don't really care what they do because I'm just showing you the idea of fuzzing. Now, the one thing we do have to do, if you remember, that's NQ%3D%3D. Now, I'm sure that everybody listening here knows that's a base 64 encoded string that's then URL encoded. Come over here, and we have to do payload processing. And so what we're going to say is add, select rule type, encode, and we're going to come down here and say base 64 encode. And basically we're telling Burp, before you send the request, when you take that payload and put it into that parameter, base 64 encode it, and then send it to the application. And at this point, we're just going to say start attack. Gives you a quick warning because it's the community edition. The community edition is throttled to 1 request per second. So we're going to come down here and say okay, and it runs. Now, as BJ said in the article above, when you're doing fuzzing, what you want to look for is any type of behavioral differences. Okay, so the very first request is the payload is listed as blank, but really it's a baseline request. What happens is Burp sends the request without modifying anything. Obviously, it takes those two squigglies out. And then it allows you to compare everything else to that request. Now, for me, what I like to do is look at two different things, unless I'm doing something fancier. I'm going to look at the status codes, and I can sort by status code, right? And in this case, everything is a 200, so the 200 okay. And then I can look at length, and if you notice, we have a few different lengths coming back, right? Question becomes, why? I don't know. Let's try this. So this one is our baseline. And if we look at the response, now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say render. And if you look, it just runs the application. Very simple, right? Come down here to log. I'm going to say logged in, and see how it says you're logged in as Kevin. Now I know that was there because I was looking at the original request, right? So if we look here, this one looks interesting to me. Came back with a 4592. Now if we look, this is the string capital M, capital Q, %3D, %3D. That is the base 64 encoded string. If we hover over it, right? Now, we can actually figure out what that was by saying send to decoder, coming over here real quick and saying decode as URL encoded, and then decode as base 64. It's the number 1. Okay, that's interesting, right? So, what's in the response? Let's go to this logged in thing. Huh. So by sending a 1 that's URL encoded, we were logged in as the admin. That's kind of interesting, right? We just brute forced a valid user. That's one interesting thing. Well, let's go over to one of these things. 4346. I can't speak. So logged in, not logged in. Okay, so it's taking that request and not logging you in. Something else is happening. So what we see here is we have 3 different basic responses. I'm going to stop this attack because just for this video, there's no reason to go all the way through. We have 3 types of responses. Either we're logged in as Kevin, we got not logged in because it didn't know what to do with that payload, or we were logged in as another user, in this case, admin. Kind of interesting, right? Huh. That's fuzzing, right? You basically take the inputs, you send them in, and then you figure out what happened. Now, obviously, during your mapping phase, during discovery phase, you're going to start trying to send payloads in that make sense for the context of the application, right? We wouldn't just take a big list like this and throw it at the app. But for a quick and dirty demo, this was pretty simple. Now, if you're interested in stuff like this, if this seems fun and you want to learn more, check out the spring break event that we have happening later this year, March, here in Jacksonville, Florida, where we're actually running 2 different classes, our network pen testing course and our web application security course. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll see you there. Thank you.